One of the joys of having written for a while is that I can let myself follow my wacky ideas. And Yumm, Rico is an example of a wacky idea. I write both for adults and children, and I had taught a class on poetry for adults one summer. And one of the things I had asked each of the students to do is to bring a book of poetry that he or she loved, and then we would sometimes use one of the poems to begin the class. So one of the students brought a beautiful book of haiku. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, that's such a beautiful book. I think I'm going to order it. I had never really thought about writing haiku for children. So I ordered the book and I began looking at it. So that was one element. At the same time, I have always been sort of fascinated by indigenous cultures, indigenous foods, indigenous music. I had a fellowship years ago that allowed me to spend a little time, not as an anthropologist, but as a writer, exploring how cultures are conserved and why cultures are conserved and their resilience. So all of a sudden one day, I thought, well, what if I did a book in haiku about the foods of the Americas? And I happened to have a couple of books on the indigenous foods of the Americas. And so I just began playing with this wacky idea, and luckily Lee and Low Books went along with it, and luckily Raphael illustrated it. So it was a great joy. Then taking a book like that and putting it into Spanish was a significant challenge. Other people worked with the Spanish with me. I am bilingual, but certainly English dominant. I have no memory of not being bilingual. But all my professional life, as I tell audiences, you know, the bulk of my professional life has been spent in English and is spent in English. So I always like someone who is Spanish dominant to be involved with the Spanish part of a book. I know enough to be difficult, and I worked with a translator once who said, well, you are double trouble. But I know what I want it to be, and if I've written it in English, I want to make sure that the Spanish is not sort of a sad example. I want it to have the same kind of life that it does in English, and that's the challenge.